Hi, welcome to the Journey with Brian. I'm Brian, your host. I'm so excited that you've joined me for a second time. We're really excited about what's happening right here on the journey. Last time, I believe I talked to you about what really happened on April 15th at 2:13 in the morning. I had this amazing experience with the Lord, and He's calling me back, giving me hope, and showing all of His mercy and grace on me. And so now I kind of want to take you back to the beginning and kind of go over kind of where it all started and how we ended up in this moment. So let me walk you through some events of my life. I was born to a pastor and his wife on May 1974. My name is Brian Lee, and it was an amazing time. I had so much love and so much hope around me. It wouldn't be too much longer where I would know now that the enemy had a complete hostile takeover that he wanted in my life. He wanted to destroy everything that the God of Abraham had said and created right here. And so at the age of 5, he tried to take me out and sexually abused me twice. It was a very traumatic point in my life. Right after that, started going to kindergarten, going through school. I was bullied all through school, all 12 years. It was horrific. And for anybody who's ever been bullied at school, you know very well the hurt goes deep and it stays for a long time. I would get beat up. I would get bloody noses, black eyes. I would be jumped by a gang. Not only that, but things were happening inside the classroom as well. So I would be made fun of. Teachers would be in on it. They would be laughing at me. It was a horrific time, and I really wanted to end it all. It was just too much for me to really even understand as a small child where I was at. I had not even really dealt with the sexual abuse. I had not dealt with not being liked and full rejection. I had not even dealt with the fact that adults could act like children. And so it led me to trying to commit suicide, trying to kill myself, wanting to talk about death all the time. I just did not want to move on. And so I could see where the enemy was really trying to take me out right at the very beginning. I did see a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist took me through all these different tests and everything, said that, I was defined a certain way, that I would never be able to change. I am who I am, and he did not bring any bit of hope. In fact, it drove me deeper into darkness. So moving forward, I graduate high school early. I leave for Columbus, Ohio, with a new hope of going to Bible college and really pursuing God on my own. And it was an amazing time. About 2 years in, I got to meet the woman of my life. In the last show, I talked about the love and how I would find that love. And I will tell you, meeting Tanya, well, let me tell you about that story real quick. So Tanya and I knew each other 35 days before we got married. I never proposed to her. We both knew that we were supposed to be together. Didn't really love each other, didn't even really know each other. I would not suggest that for everybody, but what the Lord was doing in my life, he needed to act quick. Because my interest was, I would lose interest very easily, very quickly. And the Lord acted very quickly. And it was so amazing to have her here, because it was in that moment that I felt love like I'd never felt love before. And there was a turning point where she introduced Christ's love to me. And we'll get to that in just a second. So here I am, right out of Bible college. I have this beautiful wife who I feel loves me for who I am. And we're going to church, we're in the choir. Life is amazing. And at work, my boss's husband sexually assaults me again. as I am working, on the clock working, I get sexually assaulted again. And so you can imagine everything inside me, everything inside the 5-year-old Brian started coming up, and I didn't know what to do other than press it back down. And so I had all of that to deal with. I was a newly married husband. I didn't know anything about being a husband. And we would find out that Tanya's pregnant. So not only do I know how to be a human, a son, I don't know how to be a husband, and I certainly didn't know anything about being a father. And this was the part of me in my life that I had no idea what to do. So I did what feels good, and I suppressed it and pushed it. I just kept pushing it back down, pushing it back down. I was so angry. I had no idea what I was capable of and what I was turning into. So we had moved and I had gotten angry. Something had happened. I was so full of angry. So think about a glass. Think about a glass. And this glass is completely full. Completely full. And something happens. You drop an ice cube in that glass. What happens? The water goes over. That is exactly what was going on with me. I was so full of unforgiveness. I was so full of bitterness. And I was so full of hatred that anything that would happen in my current life, I would put my hands through walls. I would yell and scream. I would cuss. I would be so on the edge. There was a moment where I had picked up a TV, and it was a 19-inch color TV. If y'all know anything about tube TVs, they were big. And it was 19 inches, and I was picking it up, getting ready to throw it at Tanya, of all people, where I first felt love. And that's exactly what the enemy does. The enemy wants to come and steal, kill, and destroy. And that's exactly what he was doing to me. He was trying to do it to my son. He was trying to do it to my wife, and he was certainly trying to do it to our marriage. So I had this TV over my head. I almost heard the Lord say, put it down. And so I dropped it back down on the stand I picked it up from. I ran to the kitchen to grab a knife. I really wanted to end it all. And this is where I didn't understand or know Christ's love until Tanya, who's trying to deal with a screaming baby, who's got a husband that just almost threw a TV at her, walks over to me and embraces me. And I did not know in that moment, I had no idea that the outpouring of Christ's love would cover me from head to toe. I never knew that. I never experienced God's love like that before, ever. And here I am, just a young kid, and I'm realizing what Christ's love is for the very first time. And I was so overwhelmed. I obviously didn't kill myself that time, but I realized in that moment how much of a stronghold the enemy would have on me. And not only that, but through Tanya's embrace, even in all of my brokenness, the Lord was reaching out to me. And I didn't see it then. I desperately needed to be rescued. So we get some healing and we meet some people. So I do a 360, but it's just as bad. So I throw myself into the work of the Lord, and I'm just working. I'm a workaholic. I had workaholism for Jesus. And that's not where he wanted me either. So through this whole process, I was medicating. I was constantly medicating. I was still suppressing, even though I felt love and I felt Christ's embrace for the first time through Tanya's hug, I still had this medication. I'm still suppressing feelings. So we came into knowing some elders at a church that we were at, and Jim and Nancy Booker were amazing. They were like our spiritual mom and dad. And after this incident, we were having financial problems. There was all this thing, everything that could go wrong in our lives was going wrong. And so the other problem that I had was I was overeating and I was addicted to pornography. And so Jim and Nancy took me into their home. I had hurt Tanya completely. I had hurt her so bad. And so the pornography and the overeating and the self-medicating, I would get driven. I was self-medicating with church work, all this going on, and I was still suppressing. And so Jim and Nancy sat me on their couch one evening and they said, let's talk. And so I started going through all of this healing process. And I told them I was addicted to pornography. I told them what I had done to Tanya. I told them, I had cussed, I was medicating, and they were like, none of that matters. They wanted to deal with the issue of my heart. This is where this story, I can't believe I'm crying, but it's this real to me. I did not realize that all of this was stemmed from unforgiveness. And the Lord, looking down on me, knew that I was broken inside, knew that I had this unforgiveness, and He just wanted to heal my heart. So with no judgment and lots of love, I started this healing process. And one of the things Nancy told me to do, she said, take a notepad and start writing down the people you need to start forgiving. So 500 people later, I had not a full list, but a comprehensive list. And as I was going through this process, I had found that my unforgiveness had started to turn into bitterness and hatred. So me throwing my hands through walls, me picking up TVs, me trying to kill myself was so much further than just unforgiveness. I had this root of bitterness and unforgiveness in my heart that was a root. And I was producing all this fruit. So after multiple visits, Nancy looked over at Jim on the couch and she goes, we want Tanya here next time. Do you think she'll come? So I went home and I talked to Tanya and I said, will you join me on the couch and with Nancy and Jim? And she did. And oh my gosh, we were crying. It was a sob fest. And we found out in that the enemy was using both of us against each other. So we left and we went to another church that had a lot of groups, support and wellness groups. And so after we received all this healing, this amazing journey that Tanya and I had, we ended up going to some support and recovery groups. And I joined IDM, which is a group for men who have sexual brokenness. And so it was so amazing. It was absolutely, absolutely amazing. I learned so much. And Tanya started a support group. And together we got referred to do Begin Again. And with Begin Again, it was a moment in time where Tanya and I were able to reconnect and start all over again. And we learned so much. Oh my gosh, you guys, it was so beautiful what we learned. Tanya and I will be doing communion in one of our upcoming shows together to kind of show you the restoration of the Lord. Well, moving forward, Tanya and I were on really good paths, and we left. We left Ohio. God pulled us out of Ohio, and our journey started. And this is where the enemy got me away from the pin, away from the 99. The enemy did. And he started pulling me away and filling my life full of distractions. And in that moment, as I reflect based on what's happened on April 15th, I look back at my life. I look back at that time. And even though the Lord never left my side, I filled it full of distractions, which led me to April 15th. There wasn't a moment that I didn't pray, that I wasn't transactional with the Lord, that I didn't get religious like the Pharisees and the Sadducees. I did my thing. I said my prayers. I tried to read the Bible. I listened to Christian music. I did the religious things, but I didn't have Him at my core. And so, as we close our time out on this show, I'm deeply moved at the fact that you joined me again. And I just want to take a minute to pray over everybody who may be dealing with something or self-medicating. Lord, I just ask you right now to open the eyes and open the ears of everybody who is here right now, watching this broadcast. They need your loving arms around them. They need to know how much you mean to them. No matter what's gone on in their life, the injustice, the bullying, the hardships, the rejection, which turns into fruit of alcoholism and pornography and drug abuse. Lord, I just ask you to reveal yourself in a way that they've never seen or felt before, just as you did for me on April 15th. Give them a sense of hope. Send your angels to encamp around about them and love them. Love on them like you've loved on me. In Jesus' name. Guys, I am so excited that you joined me